And we are delighted to welcome new Seattle Police Chief Shon Barnes to the Gee and Ursula Show. So, Chief, we're just going to get right off the bat because you raised a lot of eyebrows with this comment, the statement that you made during a city council meeting. And I'm going to let everyone listen to it, and then I want you to respond.
I will do everything in my power, I want to be clear, to protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights. And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail and be in prison.
Now, do you really expect to be arrested or explain that?
I hope we live in a country where no one expects to go to jail or be in prison. Certainly me. I don't look good in stripes, I don't think, and I don't want to be wearing stripes. But to be clear, I was told that Seattle was a welcoming city, was a welcoming community, and I am proud to want to be a part of that. I think that the First Amendment is very important. It's why we can sit here and have this conversation, even if we don't agree on everything, and I think that's very important, and it has to be protected at all costs. I take my oath very seriously. I said I would protect and defend the Constitution as well as the Constitution of the state of Washington and the charter and city ordinances of Seattle. And so that's what I'm here to do. There's a lot of work to be done here in Seattle around public safety, and that's where I hope to have my focus.
Now, I want to follow up, though, because saying that you expect that you could, because of your commitment to protecting the First Amendment rights of citizens of Seattle, that it could be even you being willing to go to jail for that. I mean, why? What prompted that? Well,
I just wanted people to know my commitment and what that commitment is to the city of Seattle, which is very, very important to me. My entire life, I think I've been in a position to protect people, whether it was at school or with my friends or with what I was taught from my father. That's kind of why I chose to go into policing. It's really where my gifts lie. And I go to community meetings and I talk to people, and people are afraid that their rights won't be respected. And so I just wanted to ensure them that I would do everything that I could in my power, even if it means some type of sanction on me. I don't think that's going to happen. No one is really thinking about me as a person or a police chief. I'm just a public servant, like I said at the end of that statement. And so I feel proud that I'm in a welcoming city, and I hope to be a part of that.
Also a reminder that Dr. Martin Luther King was arrested 29 times. Question, with all of the protests that's happened over last weekend, I think a lot of people think that SPD, Seattle Police Department, did a great job in handling that. Bring us into your discussion that you have maybe with leaders amongst your agency. What is your message to them to be successful with such a big turnout like that?
The message is simple. Less is more. We don't get involved unless we absolutely have to. We have an operational plan. We try to communicate with people before, during, and after events. I know I was on the phone with several people involved in the demonstration. My staff we were involved with people who were elected officials. I spoke with, letting them know what our stance was, where you would see us, what we would be doing in regards to their protecting their First Amendment rights. And I think it really helped. It helps to have a good plan. It helps to have everyone on the same page. And it truly helps when people can self-regulate and we don't have to get involved.
How are you able to identify them? When you all have those pre-conversations, how are you able to identify?
Yeah, I laugh because I used to sell insurance. I had a lot of jobs. So one of my jobs out of college was selling insurance, life insurance. And if I made a sale, I'd say, hey, who else wants to buy? Who else should I talk to? Who else just had a baby? Who else, may want life insurance? And it's the same way. You talk to one person and you say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We'll be out. We'll be along the routes. If you need us, we'll be on bikes, et cetera. And then I say, well, who else should I talk to? Oh, you know what? You should talk to so-and-so. They know more about this part. They organize that. Then you get their number, you give them a call, or you have staff or someone that may know them to give them a call and let them know where we stand. I think communication really, really is a key. It's something that I think this department does well, and so I'm just glad to be a part of that.
This is Seattle Police Chief Shon Barnes here on the Gee and Ursula Show. So I want to go back to what happened Saturday. There are estimates that it could have been 70,000, maybe even up to 100,000 people who ended up showing up. And I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but that part of it was mostly peaceful, if not virtually peaceful.
Yeah, it was probably lasted maybe 4 hours. I mean, our time was probably a little bit longer with setup and everything, but we had no arrest. We had no uses of force. People were thanking us along the parade route when they saw us for being there, and I don't know, if the comment had anything to do with that, but people were like, thank you for allowing us to be able to come here and say our piece. And again, we're neutral in it. We're just people who are trying to facilitate free speech. We don't have a say either way, and I think people really appreciate that.
At night, though, there were some arrests that we know, and I know that your department has made it very specific that what happened in the daytime was very different from the folks who came out at night.
Yeah, I don't know if I would put those two events together. I think we saw people who made the federal property a flashpoint, and for those people who are listening, please don't do that. Because it's federal property and they have their own police departments, and if you're arrested, you will be subject to some federal charges. And I think, if they wanted to stand out there and protest, that was fine. But doing things like setting scooters on fire and doing things, we can't allow that, because that's not an exercise of free speech. That's a safety issue, and we want to make sure that it is safe for everyone.
One of the things, Chief, that I've noticed about I've said this about all of law enforcement, but specifically SPD, the Seattle Police Department, is I've noticed some changes. I feel that there is more transparency with the department in the community. I want to know, what's one positive change that you're excited about that has helped strengthen that trust within the community?
It has to be our renewed approach to community engagement, not just community policing, but true, meaningful engagement.
Explain that.
And what that means is we're creating opportunities for police officers, staff, to engage with the community when they're not on a call for service. We know we get busy. There's a lot of things that are going on in this city, but we're creating those opportunities to go out and be involved. And one of the things that I've said is I want people to find something in the city that you can be involved with. Where do your talents lie? And so we're pushing officers, we're pushing our relational policing unit and everyone to take advantage of those opportunities, and we're trying to create avenues for them to do that. I think we have to meet people where they are. We're not always going to be at the police department. We'll come out in the community. We'll come to your events. We'll talk to you. We'll let you know where we stand. And we want to be honest with people about things that we can do and things that we can't.
What's your strength? Where your talents lie?
I think my talents lie really in, it could be a gift and a curse, but I do lead with my heart a lot. And when you do that, you also lead with your chin too, right? You give people an opportunity to criticize you. But I have a heart for people. I have a heart for policing. I was raised by two very amazing, God-fearing parents that taught me that truly, the price for leadership is that you have to put other people before yourself. And I try to do that by letting the officers know that they're supported by me and my staff, and then proving that to them, and also letting the community know that we're here to support them as well. And if you need us, we should be there for you.
This is Seattle Police Chief Shon Barnes. I want to ask you, because there is a lot of anxiety and tension surrounding what is going on with the mass deportations and the actions by ICE. And I want you to clarify when Seattle Police would step in and when they would not step in. Because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. Like if we're talking about a violent criminal versus someone who is here illegally without paperwork.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion about it. I speak on this maybe every day, I kind of feel like. Mm-hmm. But just to be clear, Washington state law prohibits us from being involved. They also prohibit us from collecting information about immigration status or where someone was born. Our policy is the same way. And so we do not get involved at all. The only time we would get involved if there was a dangerous situation, if there was gunfire, just like we would for anything else. And so, we're trying to mitigate that as best as we can, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. But we're not involved in that. It's the federal government's subject matter jurisdiction. It's not ours. We have Washington state law, which is very, very clear on this. It's not my personal philosophy. It's the law that I have to abide by, and I don't think sometimes people understand that.
Okay, well, and it's interesting because there is a sheriff in another county that has made it very clear that he is in disagreement with that and he's not going to follow that particular state law. I won't ask you to respond to that, but I want to know, or you to clarify, you would also, your officers would not get in the way of an arrest if it's involving someone who is dangerous to the community.
We wouldn't get in the way of it because we probably wouldn't be there. So when they do operations, I think people think that we're involved or there's some type of coordination, and that's really not the case. You know, our priority, my office's priority are answering those 911 calls for service here in the city, and there are a lot of them. My priority is the safety and secureness of Seattle. There's a lot going on in this city. We are trending in the right direction, and I'm very happy about that. But there's a lot more work to be done.
You're listening to the voice of Police Chief Shon Barnes here on the Gee and Ursula Show. We have seen in L.A. the deployment of National Guard. We have seen the deployment of Marines happening even without the consent of the governor. If that were to happen here in the state of Washington, if National Guard were to come here to Seattle, is there a plan in place between you and the officers of SPD if something like that were to happen without the permission of Governor Bob Ferguson?
Yeah, so I was on a call recently with some chiefs from around the country, and we were kind of exploring this topic. And what my understanding is, if the National Guard or Army or whoever it is deployed by the president, that their responsibility is to guard federal property and or assist in guarding federal employees in doing their work. And so if that's the case, then that would be the case, and they would not really have any interference, I don't think, with day-to-day operations of the police department.
How, as the police chief, I feel like in L.A., it made things worse. It made the job of L.A. police officers worse for them. I also believe if that were to happen here, I believe it would make SPD's job harder, your job harder. How do you plan for that? Because the tensions will increase. What is your message to everyone listening and to your officers?
Yeah, I mean, the message to the officers and anyone listening is that our priority is the safe and security of Seattle. And if that were to happen, then, you know, we go into communications mode. We have a great team, and I would be out explaining everything that's happened, everything that is happening, and so that people are not confused about whether or not their rights will be infringed, whether or not their safe movement would be infringed. And the idea is just to communicate as early and as often as possible if that happens. Now, obviously, it's going to draw news cameras and things of that nature, and they'll be following them around, so you will be able to see it. But my job is to be able to interpret what the behaviors actually mean for people in Seattle.
So, in case you are not aware, many of your officers actually listen to the Gee and Ursula Show, and we had one text in, and this is a question from this officer. If another chop is attempted, what would SPD's response be? Is there a plan if this would occur again? Could this occur again under your leadership?
I don't think it would. You know, we're in a different space. We're a different time now. And I will tell that officer, we are policing forward. We're doing our best to learn from past mistakes and things that, quite frankly, didn't go as planned. And so we're policing forward. My plan is to ensure that this entire city stays safe and that we understand the difference between free speech and things that are not free speech.
We don't have that much time. We got about 4 minutes or so, Chief. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned during your time as police chief here in the city of Seattle?
It's been a lot. I think what really has been a pleasant surprise is the support that we have received from the community. We're out and about. I did a walk yesterday in Capitol Hill, which is an amazing neighborhood. If you get an opportunity to go there and shop, spend your money, you should do that. Amazing people, and they talked about their commitment to public safety and wanting to make sure that that their community is safe. And I hear that everywhere I go. People appreciate that I'm accessible, that I'm visible. People appreciate that I return emails and phone calls when I can, and I try to be as responsive to all segments of the community as I possibly can. And so that is really a pleasant surprise. The food is amazing here.
Yes.
What's your food? What's your food choice? What type? What genre?
So, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from literally the coast. My parents' house is probably, an hour south of Virginia Beach, an hour north of Nags Head, the Outer Banks. And so I grew up eating seafood. And don't tell them because it's just us here. But the seafood in Seattle is the best in the country.
Ah, yes.
And
yes.
just don't tell my folks. Don't tell my folks on the East Coast.
Okay,
Keep that between us.
Chief Barnes, you're ushering a new era for SPD. We're not going to rehash all the troubles. We've documented them well here on the Gee and Ursula Show. But I just want to know, how is recruiting going?
Recruiting is going well. Year to date, we've hired 87 police officers. Last year in 2024, from January to December, we had hired 87. So halfway through the year, we hired 87. As you know, last year we had a net of 1. This year we have a net of 47.
Okay, that's better because you had a lot of officers leaving too. So we're not seeing as many people
not
leave.
Not at all. So we have a net of 47, which means that we have 6 months left to go. And so I'm pushing them to hire 200 police officers.
Ooh.
I am pushing them to hire 200 police officers. And so shout out to our HR department. Shout out to our background investigators. I had an opportunity to go and visit with them yesterday. I just popped in just to say, thank you for the hard work. Yeah. And they were in there hard at work, and they was gracious enough to speak with me for a couple of minutes. But I wanted to encourage them for the hard work that they're doing.
Last question, I think, Chief, would be if you could give one piece of advice, because we got some young folks that listen to the show. If you can give one piece of advice to the youngsters out here in the state of Washington or all over the country that would love to be a police officer with SPD, what would it be?
One piece of advice I would give to anyone who wanted to be a police officer at the Seattle Police Department is you have to have a servant's heart. Yes. Ooh. You have to have a record of wanting to serve people before you apply. Becoming a police officer is not the time to discover whether you like people. It's not the time to discover whether or not you like serving. You need to discover that before you apply. And the good news is we're bringing in people who truly care about the community. Our Before the Badge program gives them an opportunity to serve the community and understand the expectations of the community. And if you are thinking about applying, you should do so. SeattlePoliceJobs.com. SeattlePoliceJobs.com.
Chief, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's make this a regular thing.